Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I update daily and I'd really appreciate it. If you like this watch, you can purchase it on our website, thewatchbox.com. And today we are discussing the TAG Heuer Grand Carrera Caliber 36RS, also known as the Caliper Chronograph. This is a 43mm DLC coated El Primero powered premium Carrera. Part of the Grand Carrera family that debuted in 2007, we saw the prototype of this watch at Basel World 2008. By 2009, TAG Heuer was ready to unveil the production model that you see here, and this watch represents a rare and ambitious piece from a period when it seemed like TAG Heuer was going to climb the rungs all the way to the top of the mainstream market and take the fight to Omega and Rolex. Well, at about 2015, TAG Heuer did an about-face and decided, after all, it's not going to scale those heights and instead focus on the $1,500 to $6,500 watch market, leaving premium pieces like this something of an outlier and an all-time high watermark for the brand. So on my wrist, 16 centimeters in circumference, you can see the watch is large. The Grand Carrera, aptly named, is bigger than the previous and traditional Carrera. That said, in titanium, this one sits light on the wrist. It's not terribly thick, although it's not thin either, at 15.6 millimeters. You'll note the timepiece features a constrained lug-to-lug measurement of 50.2 millimeters, so it's right in the zone that I consider to be the appropriate range for a smaller male wrist. I consider a smaller male wrist to be 14 to 16.5 centimeters circumference. This watch at 50 millimeters, and I consider 50 millimeters or less lug-to-lug to be ideal for the smaller wrist. It fits well on my 16 centimeter wrist. Now the timepiece does have a wonderfully constructed premium strap. You can see it's bolstered. It's of a matte finish, large rectangular scale alligator leather with a contrasting red stitch. You can see it features a sheer cut, so you can see the layers of construction from the side. On the underside, wonderfully supple, and you will note it features an upscale titanium clasp to match its titanium case. I adore the fact that TAG did not try to employ a black clasp here. That DLC coating is tough enough on a case, but on a clasp, something that will necessarily get savaged on your desk, a bare metal finish is preferable, and this is bare titanium. Well done, TAG. Now there's twin trigger release, so this one is not friction fit. You must depress both triggers to release it, and you will note that it features a system that actually tucks any excess length underneath the body of the clasp, which both creates a cleaner look as there are no minder loops and there's no extra length flapping in the breeze, but there are also no perforations through the opposite side. It crimps and holds without gouging and damaging itself. Therefore, the strap will last long, and the lining underneath this is a wonderfully supple natural rubber to isolate the leather of the strap from the wrist. A nice flat and evenly shaped case back means no pressure points or hot spots. The case form itself is distinct from what we would traditionally call a Carrera. Because of the size of the Grand Carrera, the lugs are more tapered, arced, and downward thrusting rather than the sharp and somewhat broad traditional Carrera case construction, which can flare out over the edge of the wrist. Again, I mentioned this watch, good for a small wrist. The big watch that wears compact, I'm standing by that, and a big part of that is down to the shape of the lugs. Non-traditional for a Carrera, but very good for a small wrist. You can see that the watch features a integrated and tapered profile to its chronograph pushers, blackened crown, blackened pushers, crown guards, and a handsome bevel on the flanks of the case. You'll see the only polished portion being the bevel itself, the rest of the case being a satin finish. The crown is a screw-down unit, deeply knurled, easy to grip with a red stripe between the two rows of knurling, and there is a secondary crown for the caliper system at 10 o'clock. We'll talk about that in a moment. Tachymeter scale, you can use this to gauge the speed of an object between 2 points, such as the start and finish of a flying kilometer. And then there is a dial that uses the caliper system, the RS system, which stands for rotating disc, and the LS system, which stands for linear display. And you will note the linear system or linear display is the display of constant seconds that you will see at 9 o'clock. You see a linear scale that lets you know the watch is running when the chronograph is not in motion, jumping hours, jumping minutes, and you'll note jumping discs with fixed indices. The indices don't move, the discs move, rotating on the minute and the hour respectively. The watch features a lush dial with an original retail price of about $11,000 US. This is again, an ambitious piece designed to assault the top of the market, a position occupied by the likes of the Omega Dark Side of the Moon and the Rolex Daytona. And the dial is crafted to match. It's deep, it's complex, it's beautiful, it's matte black finish to reduce glare, but all of the indices are appliqué, and it features a gorgeous ray-hot outboard with this caliper system that rotates 360 degrees. Let's talk a little bit about what that is, and then we'll talk more about some of the other dial furniture. The caliper system lets you register to 1/10 of a second. So if I were to stop the chronograph here, you would be able to read the minutes, the hours, the seconds, and then you'd be able to discern the tenths of a second, and this is how it works. You line up the red index with the seconds hand, and once perfectly aligned, you find which of the 10 calibrated marks on this arced portion aligns perfectly with one of the hashes of the minute scale. So when you find the one that aligns perfectly, and it does appear that 3 is perfectly aligned here, we are looking at, for example, 45, 46, 47, and 3/10, because 3 is aligned perfectly with the hash of a second. That's how you read this system. It's a little bit counterintuitive when you first see the assembly, but once you learn to read it, it is quick, it is easy, and it was the best way of discerning tenths of a second prior to Zenith's own striking tenth system. The rest of the dial is handsomely furnished with a combination of Côte de Genève across the double bridge for the rotating discs of hours and minutes, and a sloped and polished ring for reading the jumping minutes. Turn it all over, and you can see this is what Tag Heuer calls caliber 36. It's a Zenith El Primero caliber 400, 31 joules, automatic winding with bidirectional action, 36,000 vibrations per hour, 10 beats per second, column wheel actuation for crisp action. It does feature a 52-hour power reserve in spite of its extraordinary high beat, and when it is running, you do see that the system features a smoother sweep of the seconds hand due to that high beat El Primero bass movement. It features a quick set date so you can rapidly cycle, and as with all El Primeros, it has a quirky setting system whereby the crown in its outermost position sets the date and in its intermediate position sets the time. You can see and you can make this short-lived flagship Grand Carrera Caliber 36 RS yours on the watch box. And we're back with the Tag Heuer Grand Carrera Caliber 36. You can see the Caliper Chronograph by day on the watch box.